Hey guys, welcome back to the video, and in this video I am going to show you how you can create a simple character select menu inside Unreal Engine. As you can see, we can select between multiple characters here, and let's select this yellow guy, click on the select button, let's go back and let's click on the play button. And as you can see, we've got our selected character in our actual level, and even after you restart your game, the selected character will be saved. Okay, so this time let's select the red character. Just click on the select button. Let's go back and click on the play button. And here you can see we got our red character which we have selected from our character menu. You can download this project from my Patreon, the link is in the description. And now let's see how to do it. So first of all, I have blueprints of all of my 5 characters here. Let me open it. Here you can see it's a blueprint. And in the skeletal mesh folder, I have skeletal mesh of all of my characters. So these things I'm going to use in this video. So first of all, let's place a camera in the level. Search for the camera in the place actor window, and from there you can drag and place it into your level. So here we have this camera, and now we need to place a skeletal mesh in front of this camera so that we can show the character to our player. And make sure it's a skeletal mesh, not a blueprint class of the character, because we only need to showcase the character in front of our player. Now in order to change the skeletal mesh when pressed a button, we need to create a blueprint class. So right click, create a blueprint class of actor type. I am going to name this showcase char BP. Okay, so now let's open this up, and through the add component button search for the skeletal mesh, and this skeletal mesh is going to be our character. So let's name this character. Okay, so now let's make the character the parent of default scene root. Okay, so here in the skeletal mesh you can choose your default character. I am going to choose the SK mannequin. Okay, so now let's place the showcase char BP in front of the camera. And one more thing, do not forget to choose your animation blueprint class for your character. So just select it and compile. Okay, so now you want to use this camera to show your character to the player. So to do this, I am going to use the level blueprint. So from here, let's search for the event begin play. And now let's go to the viewport, select the camera, go back to level blueprint and right click. And here you can see this create a reference to the camera. Now search for the get player controller. And through the return value, search for the set view target with blend. There you go. Now this node will be used to set the view to our camera. And now connect the new view target parameter to our camera reference. Let's see if it works. So here you can see it's working, but here you can see the black bars over the corner. Now to fix them, select your camera actor and from the constraint aspect ratio just uncheck it. Now the black bars are gone, and now we need to show our main menu widget to the user. So here you can see I already have a main menu UI where we have 2 buttons. So we want to show this widget on event begin play. So let's go to our level blueprint, and after we bind our view to the camera, we can create a widget. Let's connect the execution pin, and now we want to show the main menu UI, this one. And now let's add it to the viewport, and after that let's search for the player controller. There you go, and from the return value search for the set show mouse cursor, because we want to show our mouse to the user when the widget is shown. So check this option, and again from the player controller search for set input mode UI only. Okay, so now let's compile and test this. So here we have the widget. So the button will not work of course because we haven't added any functionality to them. So let's add now. So for the play button, let's get the on clicked event. There you go. And when we click on the play button, we want to open a level. So let's search for open level by reference. Now select the level you want to open when clicked on the play button. Okay, so now we need to add a on clicked event for the character button. So let's add a on clicked event from here. And what we want to do when we click on the character button is we want to show this widget. I've already created this widget, so you can download my project from my Patreon. The link is in the description. So here you can see on the on click we want to create a widget. So the widget name is char selection UI. This one. Okay, so after that we need to promote this to the variable so that we can use it later on, and I'm going to name this char select UI reference. There you go. And now let's add it to the viewport. So after we display the character selection menu to the user, we need to remove the main menu itself. So let's search for the remove from parent node. There you go. And now let's test this if this works. So let's click on the character button, and here you can see we have successfully displayed the character selection UI. But now we need to switch the characters by clicking these buttons. So how we are going to do it? So for that, let's go to our character selection UI, go to graph, and in the variables let's add one, and I'm going to name this character list. Okay, then from the variable type, search for the skeletal mesh. There you go. Select the object reference, and from here you have to convert it to the array. There you go. Now let's compile, and from here you can see you can add an element. So let's add one, and from here you can select your skeletal mesh. Okay, so before that let me show you that I have some of the skeletal mesh that I am going to use here. So okay, so let's go back, and from here let's add 5 of them because I have 5 skeletal mesh. So let's search for the default one, that is SK mannequin, and from the next one let's search for character 2, then for character 3. Now let's search for character 4, and then finally character 5. There you go. Okay, so now we need to get reference to our showcase char BP class, because from the character we have to change the skeletal mesh to show a different character to the player, somehow like this. So let's see how we can do it. So for that, let's go back to our character select UI. So first we need to get reference to our showcase char BP. So let's search for event construct, which will be fired when the widget will be displayed to the user. So to get the reference, search for get actor of class. Now if you go here, you can see it's an actor, that's why we are using get actor of class. And from here you can search for showcase char BP. There you go. Now right click on the return value and promote this to variable. We did this because we want to store the reference in a variable, and I'm going to name this variable showcase char reference. There you go. Now through this variable, if I'll get it, and through this if I'll search for the character, you can see I can get the character. I'm talking about this. So from that we can change the skeletal mesh, and to change the skeletal mesh there is a node called set skeletal mesh, you can see, and from the new mesh parameter you can select the new mesh you want to change, just like this you do in your blueprint. So this is how it works. Now when do we want to change our mesh? Obviously when we'll click this arrow button, which is the next button by the way, and on clicked event means when we will click that button we want to change the mesh. Now the new mesh we want to change is listed in this character list. Now to get a specific skeletal mesh from this list, we need to use a get a copy operator, and you can connect the parameter to the new mesh. Now if you see here, there is a number here, and this number is an index number. Now if you look in character list carefully, every skeletal mesh has its own index number assigned to it in front of them, and this is how we access a specific skeletal mesh in an array. So let's type 1 here to change the skeletal mesh to the yellow character. So if you click this next button, it will get the first index of the character list, which is the character yellow. The new character will be changed to the yellow character. So let's see if this works. Let's compile and test this. So let's click on the next button. You can see the character has been changed, but if I click this again, it won't change because we are only changing to the yellow character. Okay, so now what we want to do, in the character list we want to traverse through all the characters to the 4, from 0 to 4. So for that, what we are going to do, we are going to promote this index parameter to the variable, and I'm going to name this char index. So every time we'll click the next button, we will add the index by 1 and then we will set the increased value in the character index to make the changes. So after the char index value have been increased, we can connect it to the get operator to get the next character. So let's see if it works. So as you can see, when we are clicking on the next button, it is traversing through all the characters present in the character list. But here is one issue. When we reach the last character and we click on the next button, you can see nothing appears. So why is this happening? So let's go back to our code, and here you can see here is no limit on increasing the character index. And if you look at the character list, you can see the maximum character index is 4 and after that there is no skeletal mesh. So this is the problem. That means we need to limit the character index to the number 4. So for that, let's add a condition. So let's get our character index, and to that let's search for the less than operator. So here you have to type number 4. Why we did that? So if you look at the character list, the maximum index you can go is 4. So if your character index is less than 4, only then you are going to change your skeletal mesh to the next character. So connect the true execution pin to the further code. And now let's see if it works. So let's go to the last character, and if I click the next button now, you can see I am not able to go further because the character index is limited to the 4 value. And now we have to do the same thing for the previous button. Now let's add a on clicked event for the previous button. There you go. And now let's copy and paste the above code. Okay, so now let's connect the execution pin, and now we have to make some changes in this code. So the first change is, instead of adding, we have to subtract the char index by 1. Okay, the second change is in the condition. So the character index should be bigger than the 0. So if you are thinking why, then if you look at the character list, the minimum index is 0, so you can't go with the less value of 0 index. Okay, so now let's compile and test it. So if I press the previous button, you can see I can't change the character when I am at the first character. Now one thing you will notice here, no matter which character you select, after you close your game and reopen it, you will see the default character will show up, not the one you selected before. So now when you will select a character, you have to save that character index which you have selected and load it when you reopen your game. So for the select button, let's add a on clicked event. There you go. And now this character index is a temporary index that is used to traverse in this character list to show us all the characters that we have. But now we have to lock a character that we can save and spawn in our actual level. So for that we have to create a separate character index that can retrieve its value even after you will reopen your game. So to create such variable, we have to create a save game blueprint class. So let's search for the save game. There you go. And let's select and let's name this char save game. There you go. Let's open this up, and here we have to create the variable, and that variable is selected character index. So let's name this char selected index and make sure the variable type is integer. And now in this class, to access this variable, we need to get reference to the save game class. So for that, let's create a custom event and then name this load save game. And now to load the save game, let's search for the does save game exist. Now we have to give the save game a name. So let's name this char. Okay, so from the return value we can check if the save game exists or not. So if it does, then we are going to load it. So let's search for load save game from slot. There you go. Now give it the same slot name we gave it before, that is char. Then from the return value we can cast to our save game, that is char save game. Now through this casting we got the reference. So let's right click and promote this to variable to store the reference in this variable. I'm going to name this variable char save game reference. Okay, so as the reference is saved in this variable, now we can access the character selected index through this variable. So let's search for character selected index. There you go. You can see we can access it. So now let's talk about what if the save game doesn't exist already. So it will return the false condition, and through this we can create a save game object. Okay, so then from here select the char save game, means this class. So from the return value you got the reference, so you just need to save it in this variable. Okay, so in both the cases you are storing the reference of the save game. So now we need to call this custom event on event construct, means when the widget will be displayed to the user, you will get the reference to the char save game class. So let's search for it. There you go. Okay, so when you will click on the select button, what you will do, first get the reference, then search for the set char selected index. Okay, so then we will get our current character index and then set it to the character selected index. So what this would do, when you will click on the select button, this will save your character index depending on what character index currently you have. And then to save it to the slot, you will search for save game slot and then give it the same slot name you gave it before, that is char. That means whatever the index value is changed, it will be saved even after you reopen your game. Okay, so the next time you will reopen your game, you want to load your previously selected character. So let's make a custom event and name it load character, then get the char save game reference. Through that get the char selected index. So after you get it, now you can set your current character index as your character selected index, so that you can continue with the previously selected character index value. So after that get your character list. Through that search for the get a copy operator. And now in the index parameter, connect the character index to get your previously selected character from the list. And after that, get your showcase char reference, and through that search for the get character and then search for set skeletal mesh to change the mesh to your previously selected character. For that, just connect the get parameter to your new mesh. Okay, so now you just need to call this load character on your event construct. So as soon as this widget will be created, the load character custom event will also be called. So now let's compile and see if it works. So let's select this red character, click on the select button and close the game. And now let's reopen the game, click on the character and you can see the previously selected character has been retrieved. But the problem is, let's say I select this yellow character. So if I close the game and reopen it, you can see in the main menu it doesn't load the previously selected character. It only loads it when I click on this character button. Here you can see it. So why is this happening? So this is happening because in our main menu, if you click on this character button, only then you are creating the character select menu. And all the logics of loading previously selected character is defined in the character selection user widget. So these logics will not be initiated until you will create a character selection UI. So a simple solution would be to create this widget on event construct and keep it hidden until you click that button. So let's call the event construct here and just connect the execution pin. Then get the user widget reference and search for set visibility node. And through this node you can hide this widget and we will keep it hidden until you click that button. And then after you click this character button, then only you are going to make the character menu visible. So let's get reference and search for set visibility node and keep it visible. And then you are going to remove the main menu itself. So now let's compile and test. Here you can see the previously selected character has been loaded in the main menu also. Okay, so now let's work on this back button. So here's the back button. So let's add a on-clicked event for the back button. And the first thing that we are going to do is remove the character menu. That means we are going to remove this widget itself. Okay. And after that we want to create the main menu. So let's search for the create widget. And here let's select the main menu, this one. So its name is main menu UI. There you go. And then let's add it to the viewport. But there is a little problem here. So if we compile and go to the main menu, here you can see when we are pressing the character, we are making the character menu visible. But it will be only visible when the reference is valid, means when it is already created. So when you click the character button, this will work only once. because the reference will be valid. But the second time when you'll click the back button, you are removing the character menu. That means this reference won't be valid and this won't work. So to make this work, we can do one thing, that we can check if this reference is valid or not. So you can search for is valid, connect the execution pin. So if you click the character button first time, this will be valid and you will make it visible. But the second time, that means you have clicked that back button and removed it from the parent. That means the reference is not valid. Then simply you can create the character menu again. So here it is, and make sure to store the reference in this variable again, and after that you can add it to the viewport and then finally compile and see if this works. So let's click on the character button. Let's go back, click on the character button again, go back. Here you can see it's working perfectly fine. One more advantage of using this method is, let's select this mesh and go to any other mesh, and without selecting it, click on back button. You can see it has retrieved its previously selected mesh. So now we are done for the character select menu, and now we have to spawn that character in our actual level. So let's see how to do it. So let's open the level where you want to spawn your selected character. So here you can code in your level blueprint or you can code inside your game mode. I am using third-person game mode here, and make sure you have no default pawn class here because we are going to spawn the character manually. So I am using the game mode, so let's open it wherever it is. Now let's search for the event begin play. There you go. And now we want to load our save game just like we did it before. Okay, so after we got the reference to our save game, now we want to spawn our character depending on what character selected index it have. So let's create a custom event for it. I'm going to name this spawn selected character. So how we gonna spawn our character? So first let's get the reference of our save game. After that, search for the char selected index. Now this variable have the index number of what character we want to spawn. So if it is equals to the 0, then get a branch to check if it is true or not. So if this index is equals to 0, in that case we want to spawn an actor, and this actor is a blueprint class that is controlling the skeletal mesh of this index. So if you look at the character list, you can see if 0 index is the condition, we are going to spawn this mannequin, and this mannequin is controlled by the third-person blueprint in my case. Here you can see it. So I am going to spawn the third-person character when index is 0. Now in spawn transform, right click on the split structure, and now we need to specify the location where we want to spawn our character. So I want to spawn the character at the player start. So you can copy the location of every axis one by one. You can also specify the rotation, but here the rotation is 0, 0, 0, so there is no problem with it. After that, let's get our player controller, and through the return value search for the possess node. Now connect the parameter and return value to inPawn so you can control your character after spawning. So what if the index is not equals to 0? So in that condition, the index can also be equals to 1. So let's just copy and type 1 in the condition and connect the false execution pin to the branch, and just copy the above spawning nodes and then connect the true execution pin. So if the index is equals to 1, here you can see, then we should spawn character 2. Here you can see I have blueprint class of character 2, character 3 and all the other blueprint class of the characters. So in the spawning node, just select the character 2. And we have to do the same thing for other indexes also. Alright, so now we need to call this spawn selected character in our event begin play. So let's call this. There you go. And just connect the execution pin for both the cases. Okay, so now I think we are done with the functionality, and the last thing you have to do is in the main menu, when you click the play button, after opening the level you have to hide the mouse cursor. So for that, let's get the player controller and set show mouse cursor and keep it disabled. After that, search for the set input mode game only, and finally we are good to go. So let's go to our menu map and let's test this. So let's click on play, go to character, and let's choose a character. Let's say this one. So click on select, go back and click on the play button. Here you can see we have got our selected character in our actual map. So you can download this project from my Patreon, where you'll also get the link to a website where you can copy and paste the blueprint code directly into your project without wasting any time. And one last important thing, if your different characters use different animation blueprint, then in your select character UI, when you click on next or previous button, after you set the skeletal mesh, make sure to use set animation node, so that you can assign them their ideal animation depending on the character index. So if this video helped you out, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. My Discord server link is in the description below, so do not forget to join it. Till then, see you. Bye bye.